Okay, YouTube. So it's Daryl here with Sinister in Penticton, BC. So the day has come where I finally got the Shovelhead to a point where I think I can fire it up. I have gone through all the systems on this bike. The kill switch works. We have spark. I have cranked the motor over, and because I wanted to see if it had oil pressure came up, so we know we're primed. Of course, when we build these things, we use assembly lube, so I don't know if any of you guys out there have built a lot of your own engines, but here's the assembly lube I like to use. I use the Ultra Slick. It's kind of nice because you can put it on, and let's say the motor's going to sit for a few months or 6 months or whatever. That stuff is sticky enough, it'll stay in the spots you want lubed. So I like using that. I used to use other stuff that's similar, but it's kind of handy in that tiny little can, which is kind of nice. So I have done all my system checks. Like I say, battery is charged. I have primed it just under cranking. It comes up to 15, 20 PSI. So at least I know that the oil pump is moving oil. We do have oil in it. So we're running 3 liters of oil in the tank. I know for a fact that I have fuel in it because right here you can see there is the Thunderjet fuel line is clear, and I can see fuel up to here. So I even know that my float is set relatively good. We have jetted this carb. This carb has been totally rebuilt this winter. It is an S&S Super B. We are also running a Super Bowl on it, as you can see here, which comes with the ability to then run an external accelerator pump. We have jetted this to what we think is going to be pretty close. Of course, we'll get it on the dyno in the spring, and we will see how it goes from there. The fuel has been turned on for about 5 or 6 minutes now, and I have no fuel dripping anywhere on it, so I know I'm good there. Couple things I like to do before I fire up a new engine. I know it's going to be hard to see, but I do clean the tailpipes just because I'd like to see the color of the exhaust. Previous to this 100-inch motor going in here, the old 91-inch we had in here did burn some oil. The cylinder heads needed new valve seals. I feel like the rings weren't totally sealed because the cylinders, when we took the motor apart, were very scorched. And so we were coking a lot of oil, so it was really tough to tune, but I'm kind of glad we've got this 100-inch in here now. With the stroker plates on these big bore cylinders, we certainly got quite tight up here at the top of the frame. Still fits, but it definitely got a little bit tight. So I do like to clean the tailpipes just so I can get an initial look and see if there's a whole bunch of really dark black soot. A lot of times on Shovelheads, if they're running rich, you can actually see the puffs of black coming out the pipes. They're a pretty honest motor. They're not going to give you a whole bunch of BS. They really are just an honest motor. I am going to do a couple of things, and I don't know if you can see it, but you see that Allen wrench right there? I literally have the Allen wrench down in the idle screw so that when I try and fire this thing, I'm going to do my best today solo. I'm going to set the camera down so that you can see me working on it. But if it won't fire up and idle right away, because typically with the electronic ignitions and stuff, these things fire up really nicely. I'll be able to adjust that quickly just because I want to check. All I'm going to do is run the engine for 3 or 4 minutes because I just want to get enough heat in the motor that it's going to take a little bit of heat, and then I can put a wrench on things, double check everything. I can maybe set the idle pretty close for now, and then when we fire it up later after it's cooled down, we'll tune it as best we can here on the lift, and then it'll go to the dyno tuner in the spring. So other things I have done is obviously I primed it without the spark plugs in it. And now you can see the spark plugs and the wires are connected. We do have spark. I checked for spark. I'm not gonna check it this time, but typically on a fire up, what I'd do is I'd have my multimeter too, because I wanna see if the charging system's working, but I'll do that later when I can let it run a little bit longer. I just wanna initially fire it up today, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited as hell because I haven't heard this thing yet, and I'm really hoping it sounds good. So I'll check the charging system later on when we're doing a little bit more tweaking on it. But for today, I just want to get it fired up. And yeah, you'll have to excuse the mess on the table. I don't really care about the mess. I'll clean it up later. I'm too excited to get this thing running. So the exhaust, we just finished polishing the exhaust, get all the old fingerprints off it, burnt oil that was on it, etc. I just wanted it cleaned up so it's not a grubby mess. I'm gonna take a sip of coffee. So system's all been checked. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and set the camera down in such a way that you guys can all see. I'm gonna crack a couple of doors here and I'm gonna see if this thing will light up. This is first fire. This is legit. Can we see there? That should be good, hey? All right, I'm gonna crack some doors. Okay, I'm gonna move my coffee cup so I don't lose my coffee. Okay, so fuel's on. Key is on. It's in neutral. I'm going to give it a couple pumps of gas. And I'm gonna put my wrench back in because I just knocked it out. Okay, so wrench is in. This bike has two ways to start it. I can use the starter button up top, or I can use the starter button on the end of the starter. So here goes. Kill switch. Okay, that's a good sign. I'm guessing we don't have enough idle in it here yet. Ooh. That's a good sound. Got oil pressure. That thing sounds beefy. That's probably enough for the first startup. I just wanted to make sure it made oil pressure, see if we were close on the carburetor. The exhaust smells pretty good. And I know people are gonna say, oh, you can't tell from the smell. You kind of can. It should be a sweet smell, but it sounds good. Comes off idle okay. I don't see literally any oil anywhere, and Shovelheads have some definite spots where they like to leak. So I'm gonna check those very carefully. I'm definitely gonna take a real good look around, make sure there's no leaks anywhere. But we know it runs. It runs very well. Like, I did not expect it to idle like that. I don't know if the video would have caught it, but there was definitely a puff of blue came out of it. That would have been when we oiled down the cylinders and stuff like that, just so that they were pre-lubed. It just burning that off real quick. Probably the first, 6 times it puffed out the pipes, there was a little bit of blue there. So we're definitely gonna keep our eyes peeled for some of the typical spots the old Shovelheads like to weep and leak. We're gonna put a wrench on a few things and just double check after we get a couple more heat cycles in it. Another thing I really can't stress enough, guys, is make sure that everything is clean and dry before you fire your motor, because it's a really easy check after things cool down a little bit to just run your hand, under the primary, see if there's any oil on your hand, around the rocker boxes, and you can feel underneath things, and just if there's oil, then start looking for a leak. But so far so good. I don't see anything on this motor that is even close to weeping. And the old 91-inch motor, honestly, had a couple of problem areas. Lifter blocks would get a little pooling on them, and same with the rocker end shaft caps, would leak almost immediately no matter what I did. But I've attempted to do something different up there because we don't need to externally oil. So I have blocked off those oil ports coming in there. So I think that's gonna help me. Oil pressure looked great when I revved it up a couple of times there. It was, 40, 45 pounds, but it's got cold oil, cold motor. Typically they do make a little bit more oil pressure anyway when they're cold. As soon as everything gets hot, you lose quite a bit of oil pressure anyway. So yeah, I'm pumped. That thing sounds amazing. Yeah, 11 to 1, 100-inch, big cam, 2-inch drag pipes. Badass is what that is. That is just a badass beast. I mean, we're hoping it makes well over 100 horse and, well over 100 torque. And this bike doesn't weigh much, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a tire shredder. So look forward to comments and questions, and I know everybody's got a way they like to do break-ins, but I don't mind popping the throttle a couple times to hear these things, because it's just metal bits in there. It doesn't know the difference. It's not like we were hitting the limiter on the thing. So but yeah, one thing I didn't touch on was the ignition has been statically timed to roughly 35, 36 degrees. I think this motor's gonna run best closer to 30 degrees. When you get 100-inch and over, they seem to like being closer to the 30, so we'll see what it does on the dyno. And I'm only gonna do, this is the last video I'm gonna do on this refresh. I may post a video if the tuner will allow me to. I'll post a video of the dyno run and the sheet, so we'll see what happens. I'm pretty jacked, I'm pretty pumped. That thing sounds great. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been a fun little project for me, and I look forward to doing more videos and content for you guys. Cheers.